Welcome to the ultimate zone of the camera comparison between the Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus and the Google Pixel 2 XL. So in this video I'll be doing 20 different individual tests when it comes to the camera of these two phones. So I'll be testing everything from the general photography to macro shots, stabilization tests in 4K, front-facing camera photo and front-facing camera video, microphone tests, bitrate comparison, low light, with the front-facing camera, with the back-facing camera, with and without flash, time-lapse, panorama, slow motion, and so much more. So, ultimate zone of the camera comparison between the S9 Plus and the Pixel 2 XL. So, grab some snacks, sit back, and be sure to watch this video in full 4K, and enjoy. Okay, so starting off with this regular photo taken with the back-facing camera. Both look really similar when it comes to the color. However, the S9 is a bit brighter on the bush, and also the pine tree is a bit sharper and also brighter as well on the S9. Now, if you take a look at the Pixel 2 XL, this one got the top of the building on the right perfectly in focus, whereas on the S9, this building is quite a bit out of focus, even though the S9 was using an f2.4 aperture for this shot. Next up, we have this really tricky shot with a lot of dark areas and also a lot of bright areas. So it's quite a bit difficult getting the dynamic range right on these phones. And the Pixel 2 XL, as you can see, it's so much more contrasty than the S9. It was actually raining, by the way, and you can even see the wet pavement on the Pixel 2 and not so much on the S9 Plus. However, the S9 does have a flatter image, by the way, which can be easily edited in post. But yeah, when it comes to sharpness, both of them are really sharp. Moving on to a close-up shot, this is a macro shot, by the way, so this was taken with the regular module and not the zoom lens. And here we get a very big difference between the two in terms of the sharpness. So the S9 Plus is so much sharper, everything is perfectly in focus because of that f2.4 aperture, whereas on the Pixel 2 XL, only the brown leaves are in focus and you get a depth of field effect for the rest of the image. And when it comes to the actual color, the S9 has a significantly warmer tint with overly saturated colors, whereas the Pixel 2 XL is so much more natural. Next up, we have a shot taken with the zoom module. Now, keep in mind that the Pixel 2 XL doesn't really have a zoom module, so I've actually zoomed this digitally, whereas the S9 Plus has a second camera module which does offer 2x optical zoom. And because of this, the image is so much sharper on the S9 Plus. So if you take a look at the waves on top of the image, the difference is even greater. So if you usually zoom in when taking your photos, the S9 Plus is so much better because of that second camera module. Now, moving on to a video that was taken with a back-facing camera. This, by the way, was recorded in 4K 60 frames per second on the S9 Plus, whereas the Pixel 2 XL can only do 4K 30. Now, when it comes to the actual bitrate, we have 72 megabits per second on the S9 Plus and 4K 60, and 48 megabits per second on the Pixel 2 XL, which is really impressive for the Pixel, especially for 4K 30. As to which one looks better, the S9 does show better detail in the water, especially on the moving waves, but the Pixel preserves the buildings so much better. The buildings further away. Now, if you take a look at the sky, it looks slightly better on the Pixel, not that much of a difference. The S9 Plus is much sharper, mostly because of that post-processing that Samsung's done. And in terms of the actual colors, look at how orange and warm everything is on the S9 Plus versus the Pixel. So in terms of the video, they both have their ups and their downs. Now, moving on to the stabilization test in 4K. Wow, look at how stable the Pixel is when I'm walking. The S9 has this slight warp effect. And now I've actually started running, and as you can see, there's a lot of movement, and even the Pixel 2 starts to struggle, but it's still miles better in terms of stabilization when compared to Samsung's approach. So the Pixel definitely takes this one. Moving on to an autofocus test, both of these phones have a dual pixel sensor, so both can focus extremely fast. However, the S9 finds focus a tiny bit faster than the Pixel does, but it seems that the Pixel, on the other hand, switches exposure much smoother, hopefully you can see this in the video, compared to the S9, on which you get a very dark image while focusing on the tree. So the S9 wins in terms of the focus, but the Pixel 2 XL actually wins in terms of switching the exposure. Moving on to some low light shots taken with a back-facing camera. So here we have a pretty big difference between the two. So in terms of the color, the S9 is warmer and also more true to life, true to how I was seeing this in real life. The Pixel 2 XL for some reason is just way too cool, but probably the biggest difference is in terms of the noise. So we get a lot of noise, especially on the top portion of the image on the Pixel 2 XL. However, the Pixel does capture more detail in the shot, such as the shadow from the crosshair, which is completely missing from the S9. Next up, we have a photo of a very nicely looking nuclear bomb. No, seriously, this is actually a nuclear bomb. But yeah, here the Pixel 2 XL is brighter by a lot, but we do get significantly more noise. However, the top right panel is perfectly exposed. You can read it entirely, whereas on the S9 Plus, it's completely blown out, and it was even worse on the iPhone X. Now, I want to test out low light, but this time with the flash turned on. So here the Pixel 2 XL is significantly noisier and softer than the S9. You can see how much the f1.5 aperture on the S9 helps. So not only is the floor texture perfectly visible, but the tank wheels, yes, this was a tank, by the way. The tank wheels are also extremely sharp, so everything is perfectly in focus on the S9. However, the Pixel does try to mimic that no flash effect similar to the iPhone X, whereas on the S9 Plus you can definitely tell that this photo was taken with the flash enabled. Moving on to the next test, we have low light, but this time with the zoom module. Now, I know, the Pixel 2 XL doesn't really have a zoom module, so I zoomed in digitally twice, basically to match the image that the S9 Plus was taking. However, even the S9 Plus didn't take this image with a zoom module because that's a fixed f2.4 aperture and it just wasn't enough light for it to be a good shot. But instead, the S9 took it at f1.5 and actually zoomed in digitally, pretty much the same thing as I've done on the Pixel 2 XL. And whoa, the difference between the two is now huge. So we get so much noise on the Pixel 2 XL, a very soft image, and also the S9 got the colors right, by the way, while the Pixel 2 XL is showing this light green thing. So I think definitely the S9 Plus wins and takes this one. Next up, we have the low light video test with a back-facing camera. And here we have another very big difference between the two. So the Pixel 2 XL does show more detail in the video, in the shot, but at a cost of a much noisier and softer image. So it doesn't look that great on the Pixel 2 XL. Now, the S9 Plus, on the other hand, is noticeably darker, but with a heavy orange tint. And aside from this, the S9 has some issues focusing for some reason. But yeah, overall, I would actually go with the Pixel 2 XL for this one, just because you do want to get as much detail in the actual video if it's night. That's pretty much your main concern, getting as much detail as you can in a low light shot. But let me know in the comments, which one do you guys prefer? Which one do you think looks better? Moving on to the front-facing camera tests, in terms of the angle, both capture literally the exact same amount of detail in the shot, which is pretty interesting. So we get a good wide enough angle for, general front-facing camera shots. But the Pixel 2 XL definitely gets more detail in the shot, especially if you take a look at the sky and the trees on the right. So yeah, the Pixel 2 XL is also sharper, by the way, if you take a look at my face, my hair. But personally, I do prefer the way the S9 looks more, just because the Pixel 2 feels way too much, it feels way too processed, to be honest. Okay, so this is a front-facing camera test, a video test between the Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus and the Pixel 2 XL. So take a look at the angle first. Let me know which one. Well, from what I can see, the Pixel 2 XL actually has a wider angle than the Samsung Galaxy. There's a bird in the tree. But anyway, look at the sky. Let me know how the exposure is. Which one has better dynamic range? I would say probably the Samsung Galaxy S9, I think. I think my face looks a bit more natural on the Pixel 2 XL. The colors on the S9 feel a bit more washed out. But yeah, let me know in the comments which one do you think looks better, and also which one do you think sounds better. So this is the sound coming from the Samsung Galaxy S9, and now this is the sound coming from the Pixel 2 XL. Yeah, let me know. Now here we have a front-facing photo, but this time in low light. And here the Pixel 2 XL is so much more in focus than the S9. By the way, I took this photo by pressing the side volume buttons on both. And yes, the Pixel is so much sharper. And it's not just my face, but also my backpack, my coat. However, the S9 has a much more natural tone, and the Pixel 2 XL is a bit greener. And now we have another front-facing camera shot in low light, but this one was actually taken with the front-facing flash. Well, the display's brightness basically because we don't really have a flash on the front. But yeah, in this case, the Pixel 2 XL is again better. It's so much sharper. If you take a look at my hair and my coat and again my backpack, however, the S9 got the background perfectly in focus, whereas the Pixel 2, I don't know, the main focus is myself, so the background is quite a bit blurred out. Now, when it comes to the actual color, the Pixel definitely looks more natural, again with the same iPhone X style flash effect where you cannot even tell that this was taken with the flash turned on, whereas on the S9 you can definitely tell that this was taken with the flash enabled. So yeah, overall I do prefer the way the Pixel 2 XL looks with a front-facing camera in low light with a flash. Okay, so this is a front-facing camera test in low light between the Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus and the Google Pixel 2 XL. So yeah, let me know which one looks better in low light. Take a look at the noise, take a look at the color, which one looks more natural, which one's orange. Take a look at the noise, and let me know which one do you think looks better in low light, Samsung Galaxy S9 Plus or the Pixel 2 XL. Now I have a few special camera features that I want to test out. So starting off with portrait mode with a back-facing camera. And here in this shot, we have a really big difference between the two. So the S9 is using the second camera module for detecting depth, whereas the Pixel 2 XL is actually using the second row of pixels on the sensor, which by the way, the S9 also features, but the S9 is only using the dual camera module, not the actual dual pixels on the sensor for measuring depth. And it seems that the Pixel 2 got most of the bush behind me in focus. And I don't know, the Pixel 2 XL looks quite processed and fake, especially if you take a look at my hair and my coat line. I don't know, it doesn't look that great. And when it comes to the S9, my coat looks so much better and sharper. Everything is perfectly in focus, perfectly exposed, and the edge detection is pretty much on point, significantly improved from the Pixel 2 XL. So I would say the S9 Plus definitely takes this one. But actually, did you know that both of these phones can do portrait mode with a front-facing camera as well, not just the back, and this is software-based, by the way, on both. And here, the S9 Plus has a significantly wider angle in terms of the shot. However, when it comes to edge detection, the Pixel 2 XL is pretty much perfect. The S9 Plus messed up a lot, not just on my hair, but also take a look at that bush on the left. For some reason, that thing is still in focus. Now, when it comes to the actual colors, the Pixel 2 XL still feels way too HDR-ish. It feels overly processed, even though the sky and the background are perfectly exposed. So I would actually go with the Pixel 2 for this one. Let me know which one do you actually prefer. Next up, we have the panorama shot test. So here the S9 Plus took a 43.7 megapixel panorama, while the Pixel 2 XL took a 24.7 megapixel panorama. So a very, very big difference here. Now, in terms of the stitching, they were both good, but not perfect. So the S9, it messed up on the bottom left and on the bottom right platform, while the Pixel 2 XL actually got this one perfect. But the Pixel messed up on the top right section of the image, where the entire image is going upwards for some reason, while, you know, the S9 got a bit right. So yeah, in terms of stitching, they both have some issues. And in terms of the colors, the Pixel 2, as usual, tries to expose everything in the shot, while the S9 blows out the sky by quite a bit. But yeah, overall, I actually prefer the way the exposure and colors look on the S9. But probably the biggest difference between the two is the resolution. So if you zoom in a lot, you can see how much sharper the S9 truly is, because, well, you know, it's a 20 megapixel larger image. So yeah, the difference in resolution, you know, makes the S9 Plus the winner in this case. Moving on to slow motion, here the S9 Plus can take 720p and up to a crazy 960 frames per second, which is absolutely insane on a smartphone. But meanwhile, the Pixel 2 does 720p into 40 frames per second, so a big difference here, but just take a look at how much sharper the 720p on the Pixel actually is. So there's no way that that's 720p on the S9, it's probably 144p upscaled, I'm not even joking. It looks really bad. But you do get much slower slow motion, and keep in mind that on the S9, you can also do 1080p and up to 240 frames per second, which is pretty much what a Pixel can. So because of this flexibility, I would go with the S9 for slow motion. And finally, we have the time-lapse test. So starting off with the Galaxy S9, the S9 actually produces a very, very fast time-lapse. So from 5 minutes of recording, it made only a 6-second clip. So unless you set this up in manual mode or use different apps, with a stock camera app, you would need to wait for quite a while if you need a longer time-lapse. Now, in terms of the quality, the S9 is decent. It's 1080p, well, same as the slow motion. It says 1080p in the video file, but honestly, it looks really, really bad. It's probably 480p at most, upscaled to 1080, which doesn't really make sense because it's a time-lapse. And if anyone knows exactly how a time-lapse works, basically they're just pictures taken at specific intervals at a specific exposure instead of just a video that's 30 frames per second. So yeah, for some reason, I don't know, it looks really bad on the S9, and there's no phone on the market that takes amazing time-lapses unless you use a third-party app, by the way. Moving on to the Pixel 2 XL, this is how a time-lapse looks like on the Pixel 2. And no, your device isn't broken, you're seeing a black screen because the Pixel 2 XL cannot really take a time-lapse. So it doesn't have this feature in the stock camera app, so unless you use a third-party app, you don't have any time-lapse capabilities on the Pixel 2, which is quite surprising and disappointing. Okay, so in the end, as a conclusion to the ultimate zone of the camera comparison between the S9 Plus and the Pixel 2 XL, which one has a better camera? Well, it's pretty hard to say because they both have their ups and their downs. Now, in terms of regular photo, I would actually go with the Pixel 2 XL, and just because I really liked how every single image was amazing thanks to Google's processing. When it comes to low light, it actually depends. In some cases, the S9 was better, and in some cases, such as front-facing camera in low light, the Pixel 2 XL was actually better. In terms of low light video, I actually prefer the Pixel, and now considering the larger aperture, you would actually get much better and much more consistent low light shots with the S9 overall than with the Pixel. However, if you take a lot of images with the flash turned on in low light, then the Pixel is again a better choice. Now, when it comes to actual video, the Pixel 1 in terms of color and exposure and stabilization, and of course that with the S9, you get a really nice and smooth 4K 60 video. And a very few important things that I want to mention, with the S9, you get a full manual mode in the stock camera app. So you can make your images look even better. You can save them as raw images if you want to do that. And then you can adjust every single thing in that manual mode, from the shutter speed to the ISO to the aperture size, thanks to that switchable f1.5 to f2.4 aperture, and even the white balance. And then the S9 also comes with a microSD card support, so in case you're away on a trip, you can pop in a 400 gigabyte microSD card and take lots of photos and videos, 4K 60 video on this thing when you're away. And speaking of being away, both of these phones support unlimited cloud storage for photos and videos in Google Photos, which, fun fact, was a unique feature to the Pixel, but now the S9 has it as well. So in the end, you do get more features out of the S9's camera, not even to mention optical zoom with a dual module camera, but with the Pixel 2 XL, you get better regular daytime shots with amazing dynamic range, perfect exposure, and they just look incredible. So I would say that overall, the S9 gives you more bang for the buck, so to say, in terms of the camera, but I personally still use my Pixel 2 XL as my daily Android device, just because of the simplicity, the cleanness, and also, yeah, no bloatware on this thing, no lag. So this is what I love to use every single day, even when it comes to the camera. But yeah, let me know in the comments which one would you pick and why, as both have their ups and their downs in terms of the camera. And also subscribe if you want to see more detailed tech videos like this one. And also don't forget to turn on notifications by tapping on that bell icon so that you get day one notified, well, minute and second one notified as soon as a new video comes out. But yeah, this has been pretty much it. Feel free to like if you enjoyed it to let me know. This one took quite a few days to make, so it was really difficult to make. Every single feedback is really appreciated on this video. If you guys enjoyed it, I'll make a few more ultimate QR comparisons. But yeah, this has been pretty much it. So thank you for watching. I'm Daniel. Let me know in the comments if any of you have made it until the end of this video by saying I was epic enough to make it until the end in the comments. But yeah, this has been it. Thank you for watching. I'm Daniel, and I'll see you guys in my next one. Son of Tech, signing out. Cheers.